Emma the Tiny Turner again. I am just popping on really quickly. First of all, to say thank you so much to everybody who purchased packs of the brand new Chameleon powders and Chameleon Flakes. The response has been overwhelming. I'm blown away, guys. I have sold out completely of the packs of Flakes. I do have a few of the Pigments left and some of the loose pots of Flakes, but that is it. Now, you can pre-order on the website. I know that a few of you already have. I highly suggest that if you are wanting some of these, that you do pre-order, because there are already a number of people waiting, and I have got another order coming in, but I want to make sure that obviously it covers everybody. And there'll be a lot of you getting some very exciting parcels this coming week, and I know that some of you already have, so that's absolutely fantastic, guys. The other reason that I wanted to come on is because I've had quite a few people ask me how you actually use these products, which is totally understandable because it's a pretty new technique of colouring. So I'm going to take you through the step-by-step really quickly on just a piece of burl, so that you can see the process from start to finish, basically. And this can then be applied to whatever project that you want to apply it to. So this is not a project video, it is just a how-to video. Okay, guys, so we've got a couple of pieces of burl or burr sat on the bench, and I've just got it on a piece of brown paper, and we've got some paintbrushes, we've got the Flakes and the Pigments, we've got our bottle of size, and then we've got a couple of other bits and pieces as well. So the way that these flakes work best is to actually have a black base for them to sit on top of. So all these that you can see in the background do actually have a black base to them, and that means that they are more likely to reflect better. So I use a couple of products. I use Chestnut Ebonizing Lacquer as a possible black base. That is great if you're wanting to cover a large surface area and you're not particularly fussy about how neat the application is. The other option is the Jo Sonja Black Gesso. This, to be honest, with this particular application of the flakes and powders, is my favourite, because I don't know if you can quite see there, but the gesso has got a fine grit finish with maximum tooth, which basically means that you are laying down a base layer which has got a sort of pre-keyed surface. The ebonizing lacquer, it does work fine, but it isn't a pre-keyed surface because it is a lacquer. I'll show you both anyway, because it is feasible to use both of them. So I'll move these bits out of the way. On these burrs, we've got a layer of sanding sealer. So that is your first coat. You want to seal the wood no matter what you put on top of it next. So one coat of sanding sealer, and then we're going to do some short sharp sprays of ebonizing lacquer on there. So we're going to just let that dry, and then I'm going to turn the paper around and on this side we're going to put some gesso. So again, we've got a pre-sealed piece of timber, and we want a decent brush to apply this with. These major brushes that I have on the website, they're $9.99. They are absolutely fantastic brushes. They're supplied to me by Lynn of Jo Sonja, and they are really decent quality brushes. And for a tenner, you can't go wrong. Okay, so this is the gesso. I'm just going to put a little bit on the paper, and then we're going to use the brush and apply the gesso to the surface of the burr. Now, admittedly, for this particular application, the ebonizing lacquer is a lot quicker and it is a lot easier. But if you are doing something that is much more controlled, like my banded bowls, I always use the gesso on the banded bowls because it's just so much easier to control the application of it. So I suppose really it depends on what you're using. So I'll just quickly finish painting this up. Okay, so we're going to let both of these dry, and then we'll come back to the next stage in a few minutes. So as I say, we've got one coat of sanding sealer on there. The sanding sealer that you use I've not found that it matters at all. You can use acrylic sanding sealer, you can use cellulose sanding sealer. I've never tried shellac sanding sealer with this process, but I should imagine it will work fine. As long as it's compatible with whatever you're putting on for the next layer, then you should be absolutely fine. Okay, so the burls are now dry. The small one is with the ebonising lacquer, and the larger one has got the Jo Sonja black gesso on there. So you can see that there is a little bit of difference in the finish on these base coats. The ebonising lacquer has got a slight shine to it. The gesso is completely matte black. So each of these do lend themselves to different projects, as you'll see over the coming weeks when I put a few videos up on my YouTube channel. But I'm going to put these on a piece of paper and then we can move on to the next stage. So we've got our sanding sealer on and we've got our black base coats. The next stage is to apply something for the pigments to stick to, and for this we're going to use metal leaf size. I particularly recommend the Polyvine metal leaf size, and this is the one that comes in the packs that I sell. So this is 100ml of acrylic based size, and this is what we're going to put a coat of onto our bells next. So again, we're going to use a decent brush for the application, and when the size goes on initially, it's kind of slightly opaque, so it's slightly milky, and we do want to make sure that the base coat is dry underneath this, otherwise the two are going to kind of mix together. They'll just not work particularly well. So when you are working with size, you want to make sure that you are very careful in your application. For something like this, we're just trying to get a good even covering over all the surface of the piece. But if you're using it in a much more precise way, then the application of the size really does matter, because wherever the size goes, the pigments and the flakes are going to stick. So if you are sloppy in your application of this stuff, then you're going to have a sloppy colouring finish. So that's one. So we'll now move on to the one with the ebonising lacquer. Now sometimes it doesn't always bond particularly well with the ebonising lacquer. If you put too many coats of lacquer on, it might start to repel the size a little bit, and if that happens, then you'll need to just key the surface back a little bit so that the size will actually stick. So that is the size applied. Now this particular brand of size, this particular one, is a 15-minute size, which means it requires approximately 15 minutes for it to reach tack point. With size, you actually apply it and then you leave it for an allocated amount of time, which will tell you on the instructions, and then once it's dried out enough and it's reached its tack point, then you can apply your final coat of metal leaf or these powders. So this one's coming along quite nicely, and what tends to happen with the size is it goes from being opaque and milky to it having a slightly glossy look. So we've got a couple of areas here that we've got a little bit of a collection or a little bit of a pool of the size, so that'll take a little bit longer to dry. It is a bad idea to touch it to see if it's dried, because you will get dust and the oils from your fingers onto the size, and that can prevent the top layer from sticking. Right, ladies and gents, we are now dry, so the size is ready for the next application. So I'm going to use both one of the powders, we're going to go for Arcane, and we're going to use one of the flakes, and I've got Mermaid here. You can see the other colours lurking in the background, but these are the two I'm going to actually demonstrate. So we'll move the size out of the way, we'll move that brush out of the way, and we're also going to move one of these out of the way. So I'm actually going to put Arcane on the slightly larger one, because believe it or not, even though the powders are in a smaller pot, you need much less of these for coverage. A lot goes a long way, and we're going to do Mermaid on the smaller one. Whichever one we aren't colouring, we need to get out of the way, otherwise it will be covered in bits and pieces that float away. So with the packs you also get a fluffy brush, which is fantastic for applying the flakes with. You can buy them individually as well, but they do come with the packs. And now that the size is dry, all we're going to do is we're going to take our fluffy brush we're just going to dip that into the powder. So we've got quite a good amount on that brush there, so much so that I'm going to just knock a little bit back into the pot, because this stuff really does go a long way. So I've tapped off the excess, and now we can start to brush this onto the piece. And literally all I'm going to do with this is just spread that over the surface. Just keep re-dipping to apply as needed, and if you do it on a piece of paper like this, then any excess you can just fold the paper and you can collect it up at the end and pop it back into the pot. So I've dipped 1 or 2 times, but that's only because I'm trying to be very conservative with the amount that I actually use. So because it's a nice fluffy brush, we can dust that over the surface, get any excess off, and spread it around and make sure all the size is coloured. And that is our arcane. I'm just going to try and shine a light on there so that you can see the colours a little bit better. So with this, it's absolutely beautiful, is this one. It's one of my favourites. It's gorgeous sort of turquoisey green to a really vivid purple and red. It's stunning. So that is the powders. We're going to do the same with the flakes, so we'll swap that out. Okay, so we've now got the flakes, and we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to clean off the brush. I'm going to use the same brush because we use them dry. And I'm just going to dip the brush into the flakes. Now you do need a fair amount of the flakes for good coverage. And it's much easier to try and pick up the piece that you're working on and manoeuvre it than leave it sat flat on your piece of paper, or if you're doing it on your lathe. Now because the flakes are a lot larger in sort of particle size than the powders are, you do get a much higher degree of reflection with these, and the colours are extremely vivid. They are still wonderful with the powders, but the flakes on a solid application like this, they are extremely shiny. There we go. And again, if I shine the torch near it, this one is mermaid, and we've got these fabulous bright greens and golds and a slight hint of blue in there as well. Another question that I keep getting asked is whether or not you need to put something over the top of these to protect them, and the short answer is no. Wherever possible, I try and avoid putting anything on top of these, because if anybody who has worked with metal leaf or gold leaf can tell you, anything you apply on top of something like that will slightly dull the finish. So it won't change the colour, but it'll kind of dull how shiny it is and how vibrant it is. And it's the same with these powders and with the flakes. But there are occasions that you might feel that you do want to apply some level of protection to your piece of work. So couple of options. One of them is the Jo Sonja gloss varnish. This one is it's a polyurethane water-based varnish, and this you can brush on, and it works really nicely. It kind of can give you a slightly, it almost looks a little bit plasticky in a way, which can work and it might not work, but I will put some of this on the powders just so that I can show you. The other option that you've got is a lacquer. So this one is the chestnut acrylic gloss lacquer, and again I tend to go for the gloss over the satin or any kind of matte varnish, because if you put that on, it's gonna take that shine straight away. Now we're going to start with the powders, just because that's the one that I picked up. It doesn't really matter which way around you do it. In fact, let's grab a couple more. Well, that one's got Manticore on it, so we'll use that one. And we'll use this Phoenix. So we'll do one of each so that you can see the difference. So I'm just going to pour some of the varnish into there. So we'll take our brush, and I'm just going to paint over the top of the powders. By the way guys, before you apply any final finish, you need to wait 24 hours for that size to fully cure. just a little side note. We're doing this and it's still wet, so it could quite possibly affect the finish because it's still essentially wet underneath, especially with the lacquers. And when that's dry, you're pretty much going to get that kind of glossy finish over the top. So it doesn't affect the colour, like I've already said. The vibrancy actually is still pretty good under this. It's just got that glossy finish over the top. So we'll put that to one side and we'll take this one with Manticore on it. And I'm going to put some of the varnish on top of the Manticore. So those two have got the varnish on. And then these two I'm just going to mask up and spray some of the acrylic gloss lacquer over the top. And we just want short, sharp bursts as we did when we were applying the ebonising lacquer. And we'll leave those to dry and then we can come back and we can have a look. Okay, so we are now dry. So I'm going to show you both of the finished results. So on the left, or on my left, we've got the mermaid ones that we prepped and finished in this video, and that one has got the gloss lacquer on there. So we've still got really good shine on there, we've got still good reflection, and we've got really good colour. The lacquer doesn't really have too much of a negative effect on the flakes. This is the Manticore and this one's got the varnish on there, and you can see it kind of is almost a slightly kind of wet look to it. But again, the colours haven't really changed at all, neither has the vibrancy. So the flakes respond pretty well to both the lacquer and the varnish. The powders, however, are a bit of a different story. The Phoenix, which is what we've put the gloss lacquer onto, has kind of lost a little bit of the colour shift, is not quite as vibrant on this. Let me just show you one that's completely without. I appreciate it's not the same colour, but this is one without, so that's powders without, and I just feel that it's just lost a little bit of something. However, there are applications that I use the powders with the gloss lacquer, and you'll see that as my project videos come out. This one is at the Arcane that we applied during this video, and you've got that kind of really kind of glossy shine to it. It's still got really good colour shift and it's got really good reflective qualities. So out of the two, if you're wanting to keep your vibrancy with your powders, then the gloss varnish is definitely the way to go. As I say, the flakes have responded well to both, so it really does depend on what you want to do. But personally, as I've already said, I prefer to leave them as they are, straight out of the tub, wherever possible. Well, I really hope that this little video has helped clear up some of the questions that some of you've had about the flakes and the powders. If there's anything at all that you're still not sure about, just put a comment below and I'll try my best to answer. I promise I will get a slightly more polished video of how to use these out as soon as I can. But for now, I just wanted to get something up there so that people could have a good understanding of how these work. So don't forget, guys, have a look at the website, www.thetinyturner.co.uk. The powders, the flakes, the packs, it's all under Pigments and Flakes in the little drop down shop menu. I do also sell the Jo Sonia products, I sell the chestnut products, I sell brushes, I sell the size. It's all on there, guys, so make sure that you have a look and think about pre-ordering the flakes and the pigments if you are interested in them, because they really are going really well, which is, I'm so happy. So thank you again for all your support. I hope this has cleared up some of the questions and queries about how to use this new range of colouring. Right then, thank you for watching, guys, and I will catch you again soon. Bye for now.